us hosting this G20, I don't really think it's going to be beneficial for South Africans, for the ordinary South Africans. It's just a way to waste money, if I can say. I really don't think it's going to be beneficial to the average South African person.
The Johannesburg G20 summit will mark the culmination of the first cycle of 20 G20 presidencies. The priorities identified by South Africa are aligned with those of India's G20 presidency and that of Brazil, ensuring continuity in the G20 discussions from the perspective of matters that are important to Global South. The Indian G20 presidency, as some of you would recall, had established a disaster risk reduction working group, signifying the importance India attached to this matter. The South African presidency has carried forward the important work related to disaster risk reduction and resilience as one of the key priorities of its own presidency. Similarly, through the Task Force on Food Security, the South African presidency has carried forward the dialogue on this important challenge as well. The South African presidency has, in a way, continued focus on issues of importance to Global South. The New Delhi's Leaders' Declaration has provided a strong basis for many of the G20 outcome documents adopted this year in the various ministerial tracks. The Indian presidency's flagship priorities such as digital public infrastructure, women-led development, the action plan to accelerate progress on SDGs, as well as key outcomes of the working group from last year, including the disaster risk reduction working group and the empowerment of women working group initiated by India, have found strong resonance in the South African presidency. Furthermore, the Deccan high-level principles on food security and nutrition, commitment to triple renewable energy capacity, and double energy efficiency are some of the other key outcomes that have been reinforced in the course of discussion this year on different tracks in the South African presidency. Johannesburg Summit will also conclude the successful holding of the presidency of the G20 by 4 emerging markets and developing economies of G20, namely Indonesia, India, Brazil, and now, of course, South Africa. And this has enabled all of us collectively to bring some focus or sharper focus on matters impacting the Global South.
Leaders are coming to South Africa, and they are aware of his propaganda that is trying to sell in saying that there is genocide in our country. So I'm very happy. And I think those who will be coming will have a story to tell as they go back. And him, even getting to watch what will be happening in South Africa, will understand that actually what he's just trying to peddle to the world is actually not the fact.
So with the US pulling out of the G20, I think it's quite important to know that it has a significant impact on a lot of the countries' participation, like we saw with Argentina also pulling out, and other countries maybe not sending their presidents this side. So I think it does have an impact. But in the end, it's a lot of the politicians and political analysts are actually saying that it can actually have a positive impact, because there's not going to be a sideshow of another policy agenda. Everybody coming this side has the same agreements to what needs to be done. And I think that strengthens South Africa's position in terms of the summit for renewable energy and climate adaptation. I think that is the biggest drive, because if you look at the statistics, one of the biggest statistics here is that Africa has 60% of renewable energy resources, but we only get about 3% of the finances, the global finances for renewable energy. And I think that is important to see that South Africa wants to make sure more finances comes into Africa in terms of renewable energy, in terms of strategies to adapt to climate change.
The message that we're putting up here, that we're projecting here at the Civic Centre, is really just to give focus to the G20 members around the work that they need to do and the courage that we're calling on them to really have as far as solving not only the African debt crisis, but also the world's debt crisis. We've got to drop the debt as a first port of call. The debt is highly and unfairly priced, and it is also killing our chances at development. Our reality is that all across the world, it's not just in Kenya, in Madagascar, in Morocco, in Nepal, or in Indonesia. This is happening across the world. The 99% are rising up against the oligarchs of the world, against the billionaires of the world, and against the multinational corporations which the large super superpowers of the world are backing to bully us and to plunder our wealth. What we are needing is clarity of voice and courage from the world leaders to ensure that we are really secured against hunger, secured against climate catastrophe, which is already happening, and that we are also assured the dignity of development which we deserve.
Death, 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 horrible death. To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws.
I'm very concerned that the reason they're not here is because they've got information that is not correct about South Africa.
America has got the best intelligence in the world. He knows there's no genocide in South Africa.
The United States, by not being at the G20, one must never think that we are not going to go on with the G20. The G20 will go on. All other heads of state will be. In the end, we will take fundamental decisions, and their absence is their loss.